Today I'm talking about the last book I just finished, which is Of Dogs and Walls by Yuko Tsushima. This book is remarkably short and remarkably small, which makes it a great recommendation because almost anyone can read it. And it's part of the Penguin Modern Collection, which is sold at most big bookstores. Yuko Tsushima was a Japanese writer. She died in 2016. And this book of Dogs and Walls contains two short stories. One, The Watery Realm, and the other is called Of Dogs and Walls. The story I'm talking about mostly is Of Dogs and Walls because I liked The Watery Realm. I thought it was very good. And that was published in the 80s, but I find Of Dogs and Walls super interesting because it was the last, or one of the last pieces Tsushima ever published in 2014, so 2 years before she died, and it was just translated into English a few years ago by Geraldine Harcourt, who does the translation for this book. I just think Yuko Tsushima, for having such little work published in English, this is like a huge moment to have your stuff posthumously brought into other languages. Is really cool when that happens. And she's just a really interesting figure in writing. She was born in the 40s. Her father died. Her father was Osamu Dazai, the person who wrote No Longer Human, which is a classic story about alienation and the almost impossibility of revealing your true self to other people. And Of Dogs and Walls is similar in theme. It is about isolation and abandonment. And Tsushima is interesting because she could be categorized maybe as a feminist writer, though I think she didn't love self-defining that way. But she does subvert this genre in a lot of ways because instead of writing like a lot of her contemporaries in Japan, or some of the stories I had recommended in earlier videos that explore family dynamics, Yuko Tsushima instead explores not like traditional families, but single motherhood, right? Being raised by just her mom, her dad dying so young. And she uses that framework, her personal growing up in a single mother household, and she tells stories from that point of view and what it means to feel abandoned by your family or the psychological impact of abandonment on the people that you leave behind. And at the beginning of this book, there's a really lovely passage that is, without mentioning it, her mother, on her own now that she herself had left home, had acquired a dog. This was Perry. She claimed he had just turned up in the yard, clearly a stray, and so she decided to keep him. But there was no hole in the wall. Unlike those old wooden fences that had gaps everywhere, the wall of precast concrete around the house was utterly impervious. Her mother wasn't in the habit of leaving the gate open, and there was no way the dog could have slipped under a gate set so close to the ground. All of which meant it was nigh on impossible for a stray simply to have turned up on the property. And this is such a strong, to me, this is such a strong opening because it speaks to this moment, right, as a mother, especially a single mother, where when you're raising kids and they eventually leave home, which the daughter of this story just does and leaves the mother on her own at her home, you start to feel abandoned, which is interesting. It's this kind of power dynamic that exists, which is the kids depend on you, the single mother, for all of their lives, but we speak very little on how much the mother comes to depend on her children. And her mother's very proud and would never speak this into existence. And so there's this kind of veiled metaphor of this dog showing up impossibly that implies, maybe she went out and sought the dog out and is too, not embarrassed, but it has themes like no longer human, where it's like hard to reveal that personal truth of I need someone, and I want it to be you, but I can't force that upon you. And it's remarkable how much impact a short story can have. And I think it speaks also to Tsushima's longevity and poignancy as a writer, to have published this. I mean, she died early. She died when she was 68, but still, for this to publish this late in your career, yeah, it's a really great book. It's honestly one of the more, I read a ton of short stories, and this was one of the ones that really, really sat with me. And it started to make me notice more in the books that I'm reading these themes of abandonment, these subtext themes where, I don't know, it's like recontextualized walls, it's recontextualized the relationship a dog can provide to a person, where you're kind of grafting on this necessity for human connection onto an animal. It's really phenomenal. And at 30 pages, I think the story is, I mean, it might not even be that long. It is, it's 20 pages, which is crazy. And so I could not, in that respect, I could not recommend it more. Of Dogs and Walls, Yuko Tsushima. It's also just great to read from other cultures. I know I've made a video on this before about Wang Xiaobo, but getting this perspective of the way single mothers exist in Japanese culture compared to the Western culture, wherever you're from, is definitely worth looking into. And if you like the work, pretty excitingly, Geraldine Harcourt, who translated this, is working with Penguin on 2 more collections that will be, I guess they're forthcoming with Penguin. They're not out yet, but they are the stories Territory of Light and Child of Fortune. So if you like these, check them out. Or if you are interested, check it out. And if you like it, you're in the very fortunate position of having 2 what are going to be brand new English translations of stories from someone who unfortunately passed away too early, but who's undoubtedly left behind a really phenomenal mark on the literary world. So yeah, this is the last book I read. Loved it a lot. Of Dogs and Walls, Yuko Tsushima.